What's the hardest thing about writing? Well, it's getting started. Maybe you're having a hard time coming up with a story idea, or you're stuck on where to take your story next. If you want a way into a story or a way through, I have 9 story starters to help you. This free PDF is full of story seeds and prompts to get you going. To download your 9 story starters, go to nancypanuccio.com/start. That's Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/start. Let's talk about style. When a reader gets lost in your story, they don't care a flick about your style. They don't even notice the writing. They're all in. So when done well, style can complement and add dimension to your story. But when style's done wrong, when it's over-stylized, for example, it can tank an otherwise great story. And that's because the style, whether it's minimalist with short clipped sentences or long, lush, descriptive sentences with beautiful words, the writing is stealing the show. So there's this disconnect, and it's keeping your reader on the surface of the story. It's stopping your reader from being engrossed in your story. In today's episode, we'll dive into what style is, how to spot style problems, and how to turn them around. All coming up. Stay tuned. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. Many years ago, my friend, a fellow writer in a local writers group, described one of my stories as polished. Now, she meant this as a compliment of sorts, but I didn't really take it that way. Yes, I'd labored over every word, as we tend to do, but I couldn't help feeling that for all its polish, my story lacked something elemental. There was some emotional depth that wasn't quite there. By way of polished, I had whitewashed the story. I had stayed on the surface of the story. And worse, I felt like I had failed to move my readers, because when the polish is the thing that's noticed, the story is not. So polished suggested mere style, the literary equivalent of, look, Ma, no hands. So what do we mean by style? Where does it come from? Well, style basically comes down to language and how we arrange the language. It's the word choice, it's diction, syntax, sentence structure. Do you use simple, spare language like Hemingway, or do you use lush, descriptive language with lots of detail? Do you go into great emotional depth? Do you go into your character's interior, or does the story say more objective? Is the language simple or complex? Is it concrete or abstract? What's the rhythm? Is it clipped? Is it short? Is it lyrical? So here's the thing about style. When style doesn't work, when it's misused, it distracts and distances your reader. It throws them out of your story because the writing calls too much attention to itself, and it doesn't feel integrated with your characters. It doesn't quite fit the world of your story. And this can sink your chances of getting your story published or making sales from your self-published book. So what's the reader's experience when your story is stylistically off? Well, number one, the writing just feels exaggerated. It feels separate from the story. So the language, the style isn't aligned with the characters or the story events. It doesn't quite fit the world of the story. The style actually fights against the story. Number two, the writing calls attention to itself, so much so that it gets in the way of the reader's involvement in your story. It gets in the way of their engagement. The writing feels overdone. It feels like the story is just a stage for the writer to show off his or her talent. Now, I know that's not the intention. Believe me, I get it. But when the writing upstages the story, the reader can start to feel used because it feels like the writer is writing the story to please him or herself and not the reader. And number three, there are often a lot of redundancies. So the same events or ideas keep regurgitating themselves throughout, just with a different twist. So there's no real, there's nothing new. It's just the same thing said with different words. So there's no revelation there. There's nothing new that's revealed. Now, I know for most writers, the intention is never to think, hey, look at me, I'm so great. I know that, I get it. When I first started writing, I was just enthralled with language. I was praised for language. That was my thing. That was my focus. But my stories were relatively shallow. My sentences were pretty, but there was no substance to my stories. My stories pretty much sucked. Now, style, of course, is subjective. And if you have stylistic errors, they're easily recognized by an editor or a publisher, but they're often harder for you to recognize or identify. And they're harder for you to fix than, let's say, adjectives and adverbs, which is what we discussed in last week's episode. But if you get a consensus from your readers that they're just not feeling your story, or they're not sure what your story is about, or they're just having a hard time staying involved in your story, it may very well be that your style is getting in the way. The writing is pretty, but it doesn't tell a compelling story. It's kind of like artificial flowers. So all the style is hiding the story, right? And it's like artificial flowers. It's pretty to look at, but scentless and fake. So a story that has style problems often feels fake and show-offy to the reader. Now, you may have stylistic problems in just some parts of your story and not others. It becomes a problem when the style interferes with the reader's investment in your story. So let's get to some brass tacks. How do you fix a style problem? Well, one way is to let go of your style altogether, at least temporarily. In other words, stop focusing on style and focus on your story. Focus on your characters and their emotional journey. Focus on what the work needs. Lose a certain amount of control here. This usually results in a more natural style that's more aligned with the story you're telling. Pretend you're telling your story to just one person. Number two, look for those redundancies. Cut them. Be ruthless. Now, often when there's a style problem, writers will repeat the same ideas and events over and over, just with different words. So now there's a difference between redundancies and repetition with variation. So repetition with variation gathers meaning with each repetition. Redundancies don't give us anything new. They just give us new words to say the same thing. So cut out redundancies where you're saying essentially the same thing, just in a different outfit. And number 3, vary your sentence length and rhythm. For example, if most of your sentences are short, clipped, write longer sentences. If your tendency is to write long, lush sentences and complex sentences, try writing shorter sentences. Good writing is all about contrast. And finally, number 4, if you're not sure what style will complement your story, look at the dialogue of your viewpoint character. Who is the language coming from? How does your viewpoint character speak and think? Is your character eloquent and intellectual like Humbert Humbert? Is the dialogue streetwise, terse, wistful, crazed, steady? Your viewpoint character is often a good guide for how to flavor the rest of your story. To really find your style, you have to lose a certain amount of control and you have to relax. Writing is a receptive process. It's not about making sentences pretty. When you work from the inside out, you find the right rhythm, your style will emerge. So trust the process. So number 1, let go of style for now. Just focus on what your story needs. Focus on your character's emotional journey. Pretend you're telling your story to one person. Remember, your style should complement your story, not fight against it. And the best way to do that is to know who your main character is. When you're too focused on style, you're not only impeding your readers from getting involved in your story, you're impeding your own involvement in your story. Beautiful writing is worthless if it doesn't tell a compelling story. Number 2, look for redundancies where you're rehashing the same ideas or events, but not revealing a deeper layer to your character or their situation. Cut anything that's redundant, that's just saying the same thing in a different set of clothes. Put them aside in another document and see how your story holds up. You can always put it back. Number 3, vary sentence length. Remember, good writing has contrast. If all your sentences are long, the effect is lost. Number 4, look to your viewpoint character's dialogue. In most cases, there should be a close parallel to your main character's dialogue and the style of narration. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Writer Unleashed. If this episode resonated with you, please go leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews are key to keeping Writer Unleashed on the top of the charts where other writers can find us. I'll see you next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, join us on our private Facebook group, Writer Unleashed Community. It's totally free to join. And if you want more free resources plus writing tips I only share in email, sign up over at nancypanuccio.com. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Till then, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.